Well, welcome to the Fresh Start.
Marsha.
What? Oh, hi. We should we should have decided who was going to start. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You start, Stacy.
Hey, Marsha, and welcome to the Fresh Start podcast.
Hi, Stacy. I'm sad that I'm seeing you on screen again because I got spoiled and got to see you in person. I got a Stacy hug.
I know it's so cool to think that we can just drive a few hours and hang out and be together, have a whole different experience. It was wonderful to see you and to be with the muskrats.
The muskrats, that's our little pet name for most of the women that were at the God of My Girlfriend's retreat in January. And we had this little reunion of sorts
Mhm.
at our friend Marla's lake house this weekend. And it was just so fun to see some of the girls. Not everyone was there, but we got to, yeah, laugh a lot, drink some wine. I shared my amazing chicken fajita
Yes.
marinade with
And that
everyone.
is, I think we should link that. It's on your Substack.
It
However,
is.
we need to make sure people can see it because it's simple, but it is absolutely divine.
It is. It makes a big difference. I'll make sure that post is public so everyone can see it. Because, yes, it's summertime. I know everyone's getting their grills out. And this, it's so easy and it makes all the difference for chicken tacos or chicken fajitas, whatever you want to do. You got to do that. I try to share some recipes once a month on my Substack. And so, yeah, that's great.
Love it.
Well, um, so last week we had Lauren Cibene here talking about her new book, Tiger in a Lifeboat, Discovering India, Deconstructing Faith, and Learning to Trust Again.
Yeah.
And we have the second half of her interview that's coming up today, which is amazing. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about last week's. What stood out to you about what we talked about with Lauren last week?
Well, Lauren's just such a dynamic speaker and
Mm-hmm.
and a wonderful storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear about her own journey through the eyes of travel, like considering how that travel sometimes is a wonderful metaphor for faith journey, and just to hear her experience a little bit about how those two intertwined, I think was very compelling for me.
Yeah. And she talks about this incident, she calls it the breaking, that kind of spurred this whole journey for her. It was a fracture of trust that actually happened that she shares. She doesn't get into the specifics of it, but you can go back and listen to why she doesn't. But yeah, this fracture of trust led her on a journey both outward to India and inward, where she had to sort of rethink everything. She, as we all maybe have had happened to us when we've experienced a betrayal or a fracture of trust, we start rethinking everything. Like, oh my gosh, how could my judgment have been so bad that I didn't see this coming, or did I bring this on myself? Or we question everything, and she was definitely questioning everything, which sort of led her into some really debilitating anxiety. And so she talks about how this whole process helped with that healing
Yeah.
and therapy. We talk a lot about therapy in that episode, about how important that is and why sometimes our church leaders discourage us from therapy.
Yeah. Or it's something that we put off because perhaps we just think we don't need it. Maybe we have just a misconception about what therapy is, or how it can help us get out of our own way. We get so stuck in our own mindsets, our ways of seeing the world. And it's like we have this internal conversation that just continues to go on, and we'll always give ourselves the same feedback and the same perspective. And therapy is just so useful for helping us see, um, different creative solutions for our situations.
Yeah, I have to admit, for years, I was not anti-therapy, but I just sort of thought that's only for people with like a mental illness or something. On top of the fact that I had a couple of bad experiences with therapists several years ago. When I mean like it was like 30 years ago, 25 years ago. And so I was just, yeah, that is not for me. But man, you find a good therapist, people can rock your world.
And for those of us who are kind of traveling this faith journey, and we're on, church and faith looks different to us now than it did once. I would even suggest that if we're experiencing any church hurt or any kind of mistrust in church leadership or practices, or just general doubts or whatever, I would say it's time also to not select a Christian therapist. Maybe,
Right.
step outside of that model and
Hmm.
get a secular professional therapist, because that will make a big difference in how you're supported through that faith journey.
Exactly. Because Lauren mentions last week that the first therapist they were going to, she and her husband as a couple, was saying some things that were triggering her because the only thing they were looking for was, they said, make sure you get a Christian therapist. She said, that's like, make sure you get a Christian dentist,
That's right. That
you know,
was good.
a Christian plumber, make sure that they pray over your
We needed a
pipes.
Christian plumber over the weekend.
I heard about that. That was after after I left. Oh my goodness. Oh, you know what? Things happen. Things
Yeah.
happen. Um, well, we want to get into, we're going to introduce Lauren again real quick here, so you know just a little bit about her. But I also want to say before we do that, that this episode is airing on Monday, which is Stacy's birthday. So everyone, if you're listening today on Monday, make sure if you know her, text her, harass her, give her birthday wishes. So happy early birthday, Stacy.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And I have Lauren Cibene's bio up in front of me. It's
Okay.
short and sweet, and I love it. So, equal parts doubter and believer, Lauren Cibene explores the messy middle of faith, hope, and humanity through writing. Her work embraces life's big questions with courage and candor, creating space for readers to find their own stories within hers. By day, Lauren crafts marketing copy that converts. By night, she pens essays on Substack, where thoughtful conversations about faith, creativity, and resilience unfold.
Her Substack is great. Oh, we'll have to link her Substack too. So, yeah. So, without further ado, I say that every time. Uh, Here is the second half of our awesome conversation with author Lauren Cibene. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I love
So
that.
you said something I heard that just stuck out to me because I have exactly said this before about the importance of sitting in the tension sometimes and just being capable of sitting in tension and just sitting in it, not having to feel like you have to do something. But you said you likened it to being kind of acting like a suspension bridge for people. So
Hmm.
can you explain that a little bit and what that means for you?
Yeah, yeah, this is tricky too. A lot of people talk about, or they come at this like, oh, is this kind of like a centrist response? And I say absolutely not. I think that it's super important to view yourself and to like to sit in the tension and be a bridge person, because that I feel like that's the only way that people are able to entertain the idea of changing their minds or to looking at something in a different way. Um, And this is not something that was my idea originally. There was a guru on the Soul Boom podcast
Mm.
who spoke about this and the importance for bridge people, and it just resonated so much with me. And as I like teased out the analogy further, the suspension bridge, like the ability to harness tension, to actually use
Mhm.
it to be a unifying, strengthening thing, in the tension, that's actually where it derives its strength. That was just so profound to me.
Yeah. So I would follow up with, as someone who is leading others, kind of meeting others on the other side and walking them across, like how do you personally balance having that kind of ministerial heart, but also doing your own healing? How do you balance how often you're on your side doing your stuff and how often you're out on the bridge?
Yeah, this is, I'll be honest, something I'm still learning. There are moments where I feel like, oh, dang, I got this, like I feel good, I feel centered. And then there are other times where I feel very reactive and very triggered. And I'm learning how to navigate and find the balance for myself. But I feel like there's so many like interesting biological cues that I can actually feel in my
Mhm.
body. So I'm learning to be attuned to those, because that I think it's interesting because so many of these things are very cerebral and very emotional and kind of like gooey, and my very like hardwire body is giving me clues as to like how to decipher them. I don't know. It's a
Mm.
very witchy, beautiful thing that I'm
I
I'm
love
still
that.
learning. Yeah, I'm still learning how to marry the two.
Thanks for that.
I love that though about that concept of allowing yourself to be a bridge because I see a lot of people in the deconstruction world, and I was there for a little while, I have to say, that just swung to the other side of the bridge, and the old people, the old ways, and the people that believed like I didn't believe anymore were the theys now. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It was still, now it became, it's still an us against them. It's still, us and they're the others. They're wrong. And so you switch that fundamental thinking. You've gone to the other side, but you really haven't done the work of
Totally.
embracing the both and thing. Like we said, it's
Hmm.
not either or, it's not us and them. I, you
Hmm.
know, I was it Bono that said there is no us and them, it's only us. We're all us.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And I love that. And, I think that's what travel does. There's a Mark Twain quote. Let me see if I wrote that down here somewhere. Oh yeah. Mark Twain says, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all of one's lifetime. Isn't that
So
beautiful?
good.
It's,
So good.
and that's what I have found when I first started traveling. I remember the first time I told someone I was going to Japan, and they were like, "Oh, be careful over there. The air is terrible." I was like, "It is?" And they were like, "Yeah, they have all this stuff. That's why they all wear masks over there because the air is not good. Be careful." And so I'm thinking, now my anxiety is like, "Oh no, oh no." Well, then I get over there and I find out that, yeah, they wear masks because in their society, if you have a cold, if you've got sniffles, you put on a mask so that you don't spread it to other people. It's to protect other people. But
Mm.
in America, masks are to protect us, right?
Hmm.
It's like a
Yeah.
whole different mindset. And so when I landed, I was like, oh, they had that all wrong,
Hmm.
all wrong. And it started my journey of now, you know, as I went to places, instead of being fearful of, oh, the French people are going to be mean to you. They're lovely,
Yeah.
you know, or, English people are snobs. No, they're not. I mean, all of these preconceived ideas, when you travel and you meet people, it's like that Brene Brown quote, you can't hate someone up close. When you
Hmm.
Mm.
when you get to know them, you're like, I was so wrong about you. So I feel
Yeah.
like this is sort of part of what you just discovered in India. Am I right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think there's something so interesting. Trevor Noah made this kind of connection, but he talks about how American sports, like we only have winners or losers. If it's a tie, we go into overtime. We have this very severe addiction to binary, to who's in and who's out, who wins and who
Ooh,
loses,
yep.
and overseas soccer, you could watch a 90-minute match and it ends 0-0, So Americans in particular have this very, this addiction to binary that is very hard to break. And I know that for me, like I had that subconsciously,
Yeah.
like that there are people who are in and there are people who are out. And once you go overseas and you start to rub shoulders, and especially in India, there's over 1 billion people in India. Like the quantity is staggering, and each one of these, I mean, the number, is easy to dismiss, but each one of those is like a very vibrant, complex soul with, a history and traumas and victories and so it's very difficult to land there and be like I am the one with the answers. I am the one who's in this sea of people.
Mm-hmm.
You just become you get a context that helps you become way more aware of like your place in the world in a healthy way.
Mm.
There's more than one way to navigate these situations or systems that we find ourselves in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And there's no, in most cases, there's no right way. In almost every case, there's no like one right way. There's all of these, I can't remember who said this, but somebody said if you understand someone's story, where they stand will always make sense. So
Mm,
once you understand their background and the things that they've experienced, the way they make decisions, whether you agree or not, it will make sense.
mm, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I it was interesting to going back to your book a little bit. You go to India, you have all these amazing experiences. You get sick over there and you have to deal with all that. These long train rides. I mean, just all of the stuff you describe it so well. Like I just felt like I was in the trenches with you, sister. It was like so great. And um you have your first experience in India, then you get offered a job that eventually takes you back to India.
Hmm.
And the job is working with people that you might have some triggers from, right?
Yeah.
And I was so impressed that you worked through those triggers and said, no, I'm going to take this job. So can you talk a little bit about how you were able to do that?
Yeah, yeah. This sitting down with this version of Lauren as I wrote this was very difficult. I'll have to say that up front. I wrote the first portion of the book, and then at the point where I get offered this job, it took me a year to write that following chapter.
Mm,
Because yeah, so I felt like I had spent the first, third or whatever of the book outlining like these are my issues with evangelical white American Christianity. Like this is what bothers me about it. And then at that point I got offered a job to work with a predominantly white evangelical ministry. And I do take the job, but it was very tricky writing through like my thought process on why I thought that that was okay to take that job. And you could, I mean, if you're listening, like you can
you
read
can
all
read
about it.
it. And you should. You
Yeah.
have to read this book, people.
Thank you. But yeah, it was tricky. And in a nutshell, I came down to the kind of like that bridge person mentality that like if I turn away this opportunity to do real good with people who I know firsthand could benefit, if I turn it down because I don't agree with some of the things my coworkers believe, how am I any different from the dogmatic people on the other side of the spectrum, who refuse to cooperate and refuse to collaborate with people who they disagree with? And that was something that that mentality I just find reprehensible.
Mhm.
So that's why I decided to dive in, and it was highly triggering. It was highly abrasive to work with people who were deeply conservative, deeply religious. They would mention things like they would say like, "Oh, you can just really feel the darkness of when you're in India. You can just really feel the darkness." And at first, this was something that I didn't question. I myself have said this, in my before my deconstruction. But after being in India and experiencing the warmth and experiencing the spirituality and experiencing the openness and the lovingness, that I struggled to even comprehend how you could go there and think that this was a dark place. And of course there are terrible things that happen there, but terrible. I live in Atlanta, which is the sex capital trafficking of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so there were moments like that that felt deeply triggering to me. And as I was in the middle of my deconstruction reconstruction journey, I struggled to know how to respond in moments like that, which also felt very triggering. Like I can't do anything right. Like I'm just sitting here and am I complicit? So it was a deeply there was a lot of growth that happened, but it also was very painful.
Mm.
But you have this moment. So yeah, you take us through your little journey of how you decided to take the job. Big journey, not a little journey. It's a big journey. Take us through this journey of you decide to take the job, and then you explain some situations where you were triggered and times where you chose not to really engage, when people said things. But there was this beautiful moment where the tiger in Lauren really started to like come out of you without you even having to call her out or think about it. And it was when you were, I'm not sure, I can't remember what city, but you guys are kind of stranded on the street in a bus, and there are two trans women come up and they're begging for money. And you finally find a voice because someone on the bus says something, and you just couldn't be quiet any longer. Can you tell that story? It's so good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, this was when this was on I think my fourth trip to India, and we were there with some high roller donors from the evangelical world. So their comfort and their experience was like top of the priority list. And
Which, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you for just a minute?
sure.
That was bothersome to me that they were treated so differently. Y'all were staying in nice hotels this time because these high roller donors, they had to, pamper them in a way that other people going to experience India with the same company weren't pampered that same way.
Hmm.
That bothered me.
Yes. Yes, it bothered me too.
I'm so sorry.
Um,
So go ahead.
no, no, yeah. Especially, like I got very sick, on my first trip to India. Like I experienced a lot of India that wasn't like quote unquote fun, that was very difficult. But part of what my love for the people and the country was born of that. And I
Mm,
feel like when you try to sanitize these cultural experiences too much, that you miss out on a lot of that stuff. You miss
right,
out
right.
on that's an opportunity for connection that you can't like synthesize when you're staying in like five-star hotels.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were with them and we were locked in, I think it was Delhi traffic. It was either Delhi or Calcutta. And yes, when the trans community in India is deeply stigmatized, and they are the bottom of the societal ladder. They can't get medical treatment. They oftentimes cannot get housing. They cannot get a job. So they are relegated to like very dangerous sex work often. And it's just it's a deeply tragic thing. So there were two trans women that were begging outside of cars. They were dressed in saris. And there's a moment earlier in the book where I try to wear a sari, and a woman very gently helps me to wear my sari. And I just wanted to reciprocate that in that moment to this trans woman. I wanted to like help her pin her sari in place. And so I'm having this kind of like internal journey. And so it was very jarring to me when other people in the bus started making kind of like sexually laced derogatory comments about these women. And yeah, there was a moment, and I don't even fully remember like thinking about it. I'm oftentimes somebody that like practices, like rehearses comments, especially if they're going to be confrontational, but it was like a switch flipped, and I stood up and I don't even remember 100% what I said, but I basically said like, I called them out on what they were saying. Um, and it was a very scary thing for me in that moment. These were billionaires, like these were very wealthy people. These were people who are considered leaders in the faith space, and so yeah, so the fact that I did that took me very much, I was very thrown off my rocker. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
triggered. I'm
Yeah,
triggered talking about it right
talking
now.
about it. Well, but what was so beautiful about that was, I mean, all the work you had been doing with your therapy, with your deconstruction, with, learning to trust yourself and recognizing when something evil is said, when something
Mhm,
wrong and mean-spirited, especially coming from a Christian leader, uh,
mhm,
uh, for you to stand up and bravely say, "Hey, I don't know what you said, but I'm sure it was something about these are human beings too,"
mhm,
and and calling out their cruel comment,
mhm,
their lack of empathy, which you see a lot. I see a lot. I'll say it. I see a lot in Christian culture
mhm.
these days,
Yeah.
and I just thought that was so brave. I was like wanting to go, yeah, I was reading that part. I was like, go girl.
Yeah.
And you were worried. I remember you said, okay, I may have just lost my job or I may have just like really
Mhm.
messed up, but you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. Like, I think this is something so old that it's ironic that we're still wrestling with this. I just, on Sunday, I preached my very first sermon, which was
Oh, wow.
very special for me. But in part of it, I talk about this moment where in Luke 14, Jesus talks about, he uses stories to talk about how we have to unlearn this idea of social hierarchy, this idea that our proximity to power and to money and to influence is equated to God's blessing.
Hmm.
Because, and this is made evident in this story with the trans women, when we hold to this kind of flawed mentality, it makes it easy to dismiss the people at the bottom. Because the people at the bottom are there because God has, for some reason, withheld their blessing. And that's what I was seeing on display is like this very wealthy, very affluent, very influential group of people had, even subconsciously equated that to God's blessing. And so it was okay for them to not see these trans women as equal image bearers with them.
Mm.
Um, and in the moment that I was not that eloquent, obviously, like I was very upset. But yeah, that's something that I feel like is unfortunately rampant in the church.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I was
Yeah.
proud of you. I was cheering you on from my little sunroom as I was reading.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And if we can link to that sermon, I don't know if we can or not, but we would love to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll double check. I'll ask.
So are you a member of a church right now in Atlanta?
I am attending, they call it a spiritual collective, and it's a very safe, welcoming space.
Oh, I love that.
Vinings Lake. Yeah. We've only been going, my husband and I have been going since April. And they are post-evangelical. I found them through the Post-Evangelical Collective, their website, and they've just been so lovely.
Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's great. I've had a hard time. I mean, like you, grew up evangelical, going to church. I was Southern Baptist, grew up. Then I was Church of Christ. Then I was in a mega church for, I've done it all. And now I'm sort of finding myself just bouncing around um, to different churches. Sometimes I have a Lutheran church I like to go to, an Episcopal. There's a very progressive kind of post-evangelical church that I like to go to. Just kind of depending on my mood, like if I want a more liturgical experience, or if I want something else, I kind of bounce around. But I still am like, there's been a couple of times I've started going regular to a church and there'll be something that sort of triggers me. And I just go, yeah, no, I can't do this. and maybe you experience some of that too, but I'm glad that you found a place that you feel is safe and a place for you to have, because I do miss like faith community. I miss
Yeah.
that community that we
Yeah. And
grew up with.
are you located in the South as well?
I'm in Nashville.
Okay, yes. I was gonna say, like, so much of the South is very like if you don't have a church community, you really don't have community.
Right.
So it's tough. Stacy, where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Gainesville, Florida now. I was in
Okay.
Jacksonville for a long time, and I'm in Gainesville, and there's a church literally on every corner. If not one, there's,
Hmm.
five.
Hmm.
So, um, it is kind of what you said, Marcia. I will try a place out, but it doesn't ever feel like the place. And I believe, like, I don't know that there is a place. It just further kind of ingrains that in my spirit that, we're always on the search for something, and we never quite find it. But
Hmm.
along the way, we have the opportunity to experience interesting things and know where we feel most welcome and where we do not. And that helps us to kind of increase our tribe. But
Hmm.
I lead a Zoom community on Sunday nights for women that all around the world, actually, who are in some stage of deconstruction. And that is what I hear most often is, I wish there was a place, a physical place in my neighborhood where I could go. Uh, but in reality, sometimes we find people just like this, in
Hmm.
conversations in various parts of the world, and that makes a difference too.
Yeah. Yeah. In some ways it makes it sweeter, like we're kind of in this, like, it's easy for me to think of like a post-apocalyptic kind of hellscape, like we're
Yeah,
just we're that's dramatic, but we're
not really.
navigating. Not really. Oh, we're just, we're navigating, we're trying to survive, and when you link up with someone and you just click, like conversations like this, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel so seen, and I
Yeah.
feel, and I feel like I'm getting to see someone, and it makes it so special.
Yeah. Well, now that you feel that way, I want to make you uncomfortable.
Uh-oh, Stacy.
I'm
So,
ready for it.
I listened to a couple of interviews that you've been on, and in both of them you said something like, "No, no, no, this story is just really small compared to all the work that's out there on these topics. It's
Mhm.
just a little thing. It's just my little contribution." And I just want to tell you how important it is that we all give our stories, and how powerful it is. Um,
Yeah.
for others to hear your story, being able, I loved what you said at the beginning of the interview about really not putting much context around that season of brokenness or that
Mhm.
event that happened, and how everyone can kind of latch on to just the emotion and the experience of being in that kind of trauma.
Mhm.
And seeing your way of navigating and describing your navigation, what you're still learning, is so crucial to others to find
Mhm.
their own path.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I'm not uncomfortable with that at all. I totally
Good.
receive that. Thank you.
Good, good.
You know what, though? We are running out of time here, but that you talk about a time when you were in Calcutta. Is that how you say it? Calcutta?
Hmm.
And you were visiting where Mother Teresa was, and you talk about the statue and how you were surprised at how tiny she was, talk about small, like a little
Hmm.
small person that was making such a huge impact. And you have a quote in your book from her that says, find your own Kolkata. Find the sick, the suffering, and the lonely right where you are, in your own homes and in your own families, in your workplaces and in your schools. You can find Kolkata all over the world if you have eyes to see. Everywhere you go, you find people who are unwanted, unloved, uncared for, just rejected by society, completely forgotten, completely left undone. And that, I'm so glad you included that quote. That just like, yeah, because that's all we really can do. That's what we're trying to do with our little podcast. I have a women's nonprofit that tries to offer women community that aren't in church anymore. That same thing, like let's find a faith-based community where everyone is included and everyone's stories are validated and no one's judging. But we all just want to grow as friends and spiritually and understand ourselves. And we're all in your book, we're all just trying to use what little gifts we have in our own little Kolkata, right?
Mhm.
And I think all of these small things add up to
Yeah.
big changes. So thank you so much for the work you're doing. I'm so impressed. I was reading you were like, I'm going to learn how to speak. You took like public speaking classes because you're like, I'm going to find my voice. And I'm so glad you did. It's just a beautiful and needed voice. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you guys so much. That means so much to me.
Now, we always end our show with Enneagram prompts. I don't know if you're an Enneagram girl.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what your number is?
I'm a 5/6.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, Stacy's an Enneagram coach, and we always love to end. She always has some little Enneagram prompts for our
Fun.
listeners. So, Stacy, what you got for us today?
Sure. So the thinking prompt, the intellectual exploration, is how does our worldview help us understand how we cope with uncertainty and loss of trust? So to consider the mental patterns or narratives that we're telling ourselves when our worldview is shaken. And feeling the emotional connection. What feelings arise when we are caught between old beliefs and new possibilities
Mm,
and just sitting in that tension?
mm,
And thinking about how we can take one small action. So, what is one small thing that we can do? And I'm visualizing like the suspension bridge. What is a step that we can take on that bridge? Like, who are we walking toward? What are we bringing with us? And what do we hope in the exchange?
Ooh, I love those.
Those are
Great
good.
prompts. Great prompts. Well, thank you again, Lauren. Gosh, I am so glad to meet you. I come to Atlanta, well, Alpharetta. I come to the Alpharetta
Oh,
area quite
I'm in
often.
Woodstock. I'm
Oh,
in
you
Woodstock.
are?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a huge singer-songwriter series that I'm a part of usually every year called Home by Dark. And it is such a cool thing. So if you ever want to go, you and your husband want to go out for a night of really inspiring, fun singer-songwriter nights, you should look up Home by Dark. It's not
I
close,
definitely will.
not too far from you. Yeah,
Yes, I definitely will.
yeah. And yeah, maybe one day I'll come down and we can go have a coffee or something. That would
Oh,
be
I would
fun.
love that. I would love that. Thank you guys so much for this.
And
Thank you.
thank you. We are cheering you on. Good luck with this book, girl, and keep on writing.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks here on the Fresh Start podcast. Bye.